Casey, let's talk about what's going on Capitol Hill right now with this infrastructure bill. We got a new poll just this morning from Politico Morning Consult showing Joe Biden's approval rating broadly is at 59% now. 37% disapprove in this poll. That's a huge number, 59%. Also widespread support for certain elements of infrastructure, even among Republicans. If you look through this, modernizing highways, roads, streets, 71%, improving caregiving for the old, disabled, 64%. You're seeing majority support for pieces of this. And yet Mitch McConnell was out again yesterday saying, we support infrastructure as we've always come to understand it. But what this bill does, this $2.2 trillion proposed bill from the White House and from Democrats, is to include a bunch of other things that Republicans don't consider to be infrastructure, that stretch the definition of infrastructure. So is there somewhere in the middle here to meet Joe Biden having Republicans to the Oval Office? We saw that sort of theater again, as we did in the COVID relief package. Is there somewhere to meet in the middle on this bill?
Well, Willie, I think the White House has basically looked at numbers like the ones that you just showed and decided that they're in the middle because they are drawing support from voters in both parties. And that's what's driving their decision making. I think that they know that, or at least they feel an imperative to try and demonstrate that they're reaching out to Republicans in Congress. But so far, Republicans who are in Congress who are opposing this have not managed to find a way to fight back against what the president is doing economically in any sort of effective way. I mean, they're relying on a strategy that they used against former President Barack Obama, who was incredibly unpopular with the right wing of their party and who they used effectively to scare people, quite frankly. And that hasn't happened with the current president, Joe Biden. And, you know, there are some reasons for that. I mean, one Democratic operative, Dan Pfeiffer, has essentially said, OK, well, we should say the obvious that President Biden is a white man and that simply doesn't create the same level of fear as a black president or a potential woman president in Hillary Clinton, for example. But, you know, the reality is the majority of the American people have had a really tough year economically. The top of the country has, in many cases, done better, has been able to work from home, has seen their stock portfolios soar. But most Americans have really, really struggled. And what they see right now is that they are getting increased access to vaccines. The pandemic is, fingers crossed, fading a little bit from the front of everyone's mind. Their jobs ideally are coming back, and they're happy to have that help from the government. So I think it continues to be a risk for Republicans to oppose this across the board.
I mean, really, Jonathan Lemire, a 59% approval rating. I mean, if you look at this time in the Obama administration, there was the Republicans, the Tea Party, they were all coming after him. If you look at Trump, there was the Women's March. Right now, 59%. There's not a lot of options here for the Republicans to go after Joe Biden, to create a real opposition. And then there are so many that are still sort of clinging to Trump for some reason. Isn't there perhaps a different strategy that they could use to maybe perhaps work in a bipartisan way?
Well, Mika, that 59% is a really good number, and it's one the White House is keenly aware of as they move forward with this infrastructure program. And their strategy, as my colleagues and I wrote yesterday, is clever in this way. First of all, there is sincere bipartisan outreach. The president has made clear that this is something he campaigned as one who could reach across the aisle and work with Republicans. They are still looking to get Republicans to come on board here for this massive infrastructure plan. They think there's at least a possibility that could happen. Having said that, Republicans to this point have been uniform in their opposition. So as much as that bipartisan outreach, having some Republicans to the White House the other day, is about wooing Republicans, it's also about sending reassuring signals to moderate Democrats, namely ones like Senator Joe Manchin, who has expressed unease about some of these strictly party line votes, who expressed a little wariness about just using reconciliation. He has said he wants to see bipartisanship. Well, the White House is sending this signal to Manchin. We're doing our part. And if the Republicans are simply going to obstruct and say no, they believe that will be enough for Manchin, who will say, look, okay, you tried. I'm on board. We'll do this by reconciliation. We'll get this passed. And also, of course, what the White House is doing here, knowing how popular not just the president is, but infrastructure is that they're putting the Republicans in a position where would have to say no to things that Americans really want. Repairs to roads, repairs to highways, broadband, water pipes that don't have lead in them, things of that nature. And instead, the Republicans are saying no to that because they don't want to see corporate tax rates go up. That's a pretty unpopular political position. And sure, the GOP will make hay about the overall size of the bill. They'll score a point here or there. But largely, that seems to be a losing hand, the White House believes. So they're going to keep up with this bipartisan outreach, believing that even if it doesn't work, they can still get the bill passed and they can put Republicans in a bad spot.
Yeah, Mike Barnicle, if you're President Biden right now, you're looking at a 60% approval rating. You're looking at having just pumped $1.9 trillion worth of COVID relief out to people. That's popular not just with Democrats, but with Republicans. And now with another big bill sitting in front of you that, as we just laid out, the core elements of it also popular among Republicans. You know, he'll have Republicans into the Oval Office. He'll talk to them. I know he worked in the Senate his whole life. I know he'd like to work with Republicans if he can. But if they're not on board, he's going to put his head down and plow forward, isn't he?
Well, Willie, if you're President Biden, as you just said, you're also a student of the past 14 years of American political history. In addition to being a student of the past 14 years of American political history, you, if you're Joe Biden, have actively participated in it. And one of your distinct memories has to be that early in 2009, the Senate Majority Leader, off and on, Mitch McConnell, said without a smile on his face that the objective of the Republican Party in the United States Senate in the year 2009 was to prevent Barack Obama from regaining election in 2012. So that's continued, that attitude, for the last 10 of the past 14 years. The only exception being the 4 years of the Trump administration, when they marvelously, in that first year, 2017, passed a massive tax bill that helped rich people in this country. So again, if you're Joe Biden, that's what you're looking at. And in terms of bipartisanship, no one has been more bipartisan in his professional political life than Joseph R. Biden of Delaware. Nobody. You can look at his record in the Senate. He was always working across the aisle. So now he's president of the United States, and now he has Republicans into the Oval Office to sit and talk about things that his administration wants to do. And he's met with some, would like to do it, but they are still, the facts of life in that party are, they are still in thrall and in fear of Donald J. Trump. And they are reluctant to say yes to something that almost every American wants to have happen, and they've become the party of no. So that's what you're dealing with if you are President Joseph R. Biden.
Hey, thanks so much for watching our YouTube channel. You can follow up on today's top stories and breaking news, or catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.